Welcome. My name's Jeff Haynes. I'm part of the go-to-market team here at Archera. I'm honored to be joined today by Archera's co-founder and CTO, Nikhil Khanna, who's responsible for our commitment insurance products, among a bunch of other innovative developments, as well as leading our technical strategy here. So we're going to give you some background first on why there's so much commotion around Amazon EC2 reserved instances right now. We'll outline and differentiate all the types of commitments that are actually available on Amazon EC2. We'll define exactly what has changed and how it impacts you. Then we'll talk about why Amazon Web Services is refining how EC2 commitments can be managed and what the future looks like. And then finally, we'll outline 3 strategies for successfully leveraging commitments in AWS in 2024 to achieve meaningful savings. And from there, we'll go to the Q&A before we conclude. So first up, if you've been involved in cloud cost management, you've seen the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that has been spread over the last 3 months around this. We at Archera have received numerous questions at AWS reInvent, specifically this past November, from a wide range of audiences, from customers to partners to other software vendors, about what exactly is changing in EC2 and what, if anything, AWS users need to do to adapt to the new reserved instances restrictions. We were actually just meeting with internal AWS sales teams last week, and we got a whole round of questions as well on the same topic, just as the actual changes were going to affect last week. So I was actually going to read some more of the more ridiculous and hyperbolic statements that have been appearing in blogs and on news feeds and social posts, but I decided not to because some of them are so misinformed and misleading that repeating them could actually potentially be damaging. And actually, as we were preparing for this, we actually had to weed through a lot of incomplete or incorrect information. So here we're going to set the record straight, help you separate fact from fiction, and help you rest easy that you have a solid commitment strategy and foundation for 2024. So the fact is, although AWS is clarifying its policies and it does have an impact, we're frankly surprised to see so much noise positioning this as a closing door. While some are actually out there crying that this is the end of an era, at Archera, we actually see it as a new opportunity for our customers, and we'll get into that a little bit later. No reserved instances, or RIs as they're abbreviated, are not over, as some have claimed, and there are still use cases for the specific EC2 RIs that are being affected by AWS's policy clarifications, but commitment strategies do need to evolve, as they always do, to embrace the latest and best options and practices. So here's Commitments 101 for EC2, the AWS service that is affected by the current changes. There are actually 2 types of commitments in AWS: reserved instances and savings plans, or SPs. Both commitment types offer savings over on-demand prices in exchange for making contractual commitments to spend on AWS over 1 or 3-year terms. Currently, Amazon EC2 supports 2 types of reserved instances and 2 types of savings plans. First up is SRIs. Amazon's policy changes focuses on Amazon EC2 standard reserved instances, or SRIs, which are 1 or 3-year commitments to AWS that can help you save up to 72% over on-demand instance pricing. With SRIs, you can adjust the scope, the instance size within the same instance type, and the networking type over the term of the reservation using the Modify Reserved Instances API and the console. The scope of an SRI refers to whether it's tied to an availability zone called an AZ, or in that case, it's referred to a zonal RI, or if it's tied to a region, in which case it's given the regional RI moniker. Zonal RIs are advantageous in that they include a capacity reservation, but it's actually tied to a specific instance with size within an AZ. Regional RIs are advantageous in that they automatically apply to discount instance usage across availability zones and instance types and sizes within a family across the entire region. You can tie them to an on-demand capacity reservation if you need to book discounted capacity as well. Second, CRIs. Amazon EC2 Convertible Reserved Instances, CRIs, offer additional flexibility over the SRI option we just covered, including the option to exchange them for CRIs from other instance families, operating systems, payment options, and tenancy over the term of the reserved instance. You cannot exchange a CRI for one in a different region, and they cannot be resold on the reserved instances marketplace. Because of the additional flexibility that's offered by this instance type, by this reservation type, the discount for CRIs is lower at up to 66% over on demand. but they also can benefit from price reductions while standard RIs are exempt from that. Just some other general points about RIs. AWS billing applies an RI's discounted rate automatically when the attributes of an EC2 instance match the attributes of an active reserved instance. And that's the RI options for EC2. Reserved instance variations are also available for RDS, Elasticache, Redshift, and OpenSearch services as well. So now on to savings plan. And again, this is just meant to be kind of a whirlwind overview of all the 4 different commitment types for EC2. So savings plans offer discounts over on-demand prices in exchange for a 1 or 3 year commitment measured in dollars per hour that includes a daily spending limit. Usage is discounted each day until that spending limit is reached. And then at that point, you pay the on-demand price. So first up is ISPs, Amazon EC2 Instance Savings Plans. They offer up to 72% savings as compared to on-demand pricing. With ISPs, you get these higher discounts because you commit to the usage of individual instance families within a specific region. ISPs automatically reduce your cost on the selected instance family in that region, regardless of availability zone, size, OS, or tenancy, but they cannot be exchanged or resold. Finally, CSPs, Compute Savings Plans for Amazon EC2, or CSPs, or EC2 SPs, as they're sometimes called. They deliver up to 66% savings, compared to the on-demand pricing in exchange for greater flexibility over EC2 ISPs that we just covered. CSPs automatically apply to EC2 instance usage across any instance family, size, availability zone, region, OS, or tenancy, and they also automatically apply their discounted rates to Fargate and Lambda usage. Neither savings plan option here can reserve capacity, but they can be applied to discount separately made on-demand capacity reservations. So overall, there's a trend towards AWS recommending savings plans for EC2 specifically. Importantly, we're here specifying that these are the native Amazon EC2 commitment options, because Archera offers unique insured 30-day and 1-year commitments called guaranteed reserved instances and guaranteed savings plans that we'll cover later in the Keel segment of the presentation. Again, of these 4 commitment types, SRIs are the only ones that can be purchased and resold on the Amazon EC2 Reserved Instance Marketplace, which we'll cover next. So what is the Instance Marketplace? It's a platform that enables the sale of unused standard reserved instances, which vary in term lengths and pricing options. Enabling the EC2 Reserved Instance Marketplace enables you to get liquidity by listing and getting out of SRI commitments. As a buyer, the SRI or the RI marketplace can give you access to SRIs that potentially have shorter than 1 or 3 year terms. So, a shorter term, so you're not locked in for as long. But the transactions in the RI marketplace are governed by a number of stipulations that help make the market, including that SRIs must have been active in your account for at least 30 days before they're sold, and there must be at least 1 month remaining on the SRI term. When you list an SRI in the RI marketplace, they're grouped according to the duration of the remaining term and the hourly price, and then they're sold in order within one order from the lowest to the highest upfront price until the buyer's order has totally been fulfilled. AWS also charges a fee of 12% of the total upfront price of the SRI upon sale. So there is a fee for doing those transactions. And once it's sold, you've given up the capacity reservation and the discounted recurring fees. If you continue to use that instance, AWS charges you the on-demand price starting from the time that your reserved instance was sold. So now that we understand the commitment options available in Amazon EC2, and we understand the Amazon EC2 Reserved Instance Marketplace mechanic for reselling SRI commitments, let's investigate exactly which policies are changing. So to begin with, the policy change was announced via direct email in October 2023, so just last year, from Amazon Web Services to only the account holders who had listed their or sold SRIs in the RI marketplace that were previously discounted. Because the policy change has not been published elsewhere by AWS, vendor blogs, social media have been the main distribution channels for details and information, and these posts have often left out or misinterpreted key details. The important part of the notice was that beginning January 15th, 2024, discounted SRIs are no longer able to be resold on the RI marketplace under existing but previously unenforced AWS service terms, and that AWS included a grace period to allow discounted SRIs purchased before the policy announcement was made to be resold under the unenforced AWS service terms. So that just expired on January 15th last week. So what exactly do the service terms say? AWS specifies that EC2 RIs purchased through any discount program known as discounted RIs, that's very important, cannot be resold without explicit specific permission from Amazon Web Services. So importantly, this service term language, according to many, has actually been in place since at least 2014. So this is a policy that's been in place, but just hasn't been enforced. And now, as of January 15th, last Monday, I believe, is actually being enforced. So with which EC2 SRIs actually qualify as these discounted RIs, right? Those are the ones that are actually being, the terms of them are being enforced differently now. There's a few ways SRIs can become discounted RIs. So SRIs purchased under an Amazon EC2 Reserved Instance Volume discount. Once you've aggregated active RIs with a list value totaling more than $500,000 in a single AWS region, you automatically receive a tiered discount on both upfront and hourly fees for all future SRI purchases in that region. And those discounts continue to apply to all new SRIs as long as you continue to qualify for that discount tier. As with most AWS discounts, it generally increases as the value of your total aggregated SRIs in that region increases. So the bigger your investment, the bigger your discount. Next, SRIs purchased under an AWS private pricing program. So this includes SRIs purchased when you have a specific discount on EC2 RI on that EC2 RI being purchased. So this can include SRIs that are purchased by your reseller or your MSP on your behalf. Customers with standard top-level enterprise discount programs or EDPs are not necessarily affected. So we can actually work with customers there to determine if they're being affected, and have in some cases. And then finally, this is the most important one probably for most people, SRIs that are purchased on the RI marketplace that have previously became discounted RIs. So this is a tricky one. When an AWS customer with a bespoke rate affecting SRI purchases buys an SRI, it's automatically transformed into a discounted RI, one of the ones that's not being able to be resold now. Customers without other specific discounts may have purchased discounted RIs from the RI marketplace. Maybe you didn't know. The only current way to reliably determine if an RI is discounted is to compare it to list pricing. So the net impact of AWS enforcing the service terms here is that if you own any discounted RIs today, you are going to own them for the duration of the term of the original commitment. So why did AWS finally begin enforcing these specific terms that have been in place for almost a decade just last week? So it's unclear why it was ever technically possible to resell and buy discounted SRIs on the RI marketplace, since it was against policy. AWS certainly identifies and tracks discounted RIs within their backend systems. But regardless of why, there's specific learnings you should take away from this situation. Whatever the justification, the technical ability to resell discounted RIs encouraged and enabled a number of gray area arbitrage scenarios that provided little end customer value while also cutting into AWS revenues. Some of these scenarios included purchasing SRIs at a discount and reselling them to burn down EDP commits, or just selling them on, or purchasing SRIs at discount in one account, selling them into another account to enable unjustified discounts, which resulted in savings for end user customers, but also potentially greater margins for some vendors that base their fees on percentages of savings generated. So strategies built on gray areas like that are unsustainable. So instead, build your commitment strategy on a strong foundation. Don't tie yourself to a solution that depends on EC2 marketplace specifics or other potentially transient policies to make your long-term commitments. Don't rely on strategies that you don't have ultimate governance over. Ensure that you're in control of your own commitment's destiny. Many commitment management tools are what we call here at Archera black box. Their management algorithms are dependent on you ceding over complete control of a class of or all of your commitments so that vendor controls how, when, and which commitments are purchased, modified, or transferred, usually in exchange for a percentage of total savings or spend. In the case that AWS makes any further clarifications or changes, you could be left holding the bag when an existing tool is no longer sufficient. We've actually helped a number of organizations unwind and clean up the RI litter left behind by other tools that are black box. There's also many valid scenarios for commitment automation, which Archera actually does support, but it should always be done in a transparent, configurable way that leaves you aware of what's being automated and lets you choose what part is being included in that automation and what part's not. So it should be bespoke to your environment. So what should you do for 2024? Nikhil's going to walk you through 3 main steps, which I'll just quickly summarize. So first of all, gain full visibility and control of all of your commitments. In this evolving environment, you want full visibility into what's happening with your commitment strategy and control when you need it. And you shouldn't have to pay to get access to a management solution that looks at all the possible options and not just a subset of RIs and SPs or a subset of services. Secondly, you want to hedge against risks. Archera delivers unique commitment types that can help you bridge the gap left by AWS's RI and SP offerings. Unique Archera insured short-term commitments can help you achieve key savings without making long-term commitments across and they're available across all the committable AWS services. And then finally, you want to maximize your discount opportunities. We briefly touched on this. You want to get access to discount opportunities like enterprise discount plans, EDPs, and Archera can help you model forward-looking scenarios and work with you to optimize the way you spend on AWS and how that contributes towards your EDP thresholds. All right, Nikhil's going to take it away and give you an overview of how we can help you achieve those 3 things this year.
Thanks, Jeff. So just diving deeper into some of the points that Jeff had touched on. The first main piece is that it's important to gain full visibility and control into what is happening with your commitments rather than fully hand over commitment control to an automated black box approach. You should be able to see and control your commitment strategy. And if you do want to automate some piece of it, you should be able to opt into that automation on a really granular level rather than just handing over the entire enchilada. That way you can have certainty around what is being committed to, and you don't have to worry about a third party skirting AWS guidelines in order to boost their margins, which can often be based on something like a percentage of savings, where you can see why it's in their incentive to, rely on discounted RIs or do something else that is really on the edge of those AWS guidelines. Moving into sort of how Archera itself works, a question that we've gotten repeatedly is, does the RI marketplace change affect Archera's business model in any way? And the answer is unequivocally no. Archera does not arbitrage commitments or make use of discounted EC2 RIs. Archera's business model is instead based on helping businesses ensure their cloud commitments, and we're unaffected by the elimination of SRI arbitrage. Archera's guaranteed RIs and guaranteed savings plans are short-term commitments that are created by providing insurance on top of AWS's native commitments, so that a customer is able to take advantage of Archera's buyback and rebate guarantees so that they are financially protected in the event of any commitment underutilization. With Archera's insured commitment model, which has also been endorsed by AWS leadership, the customer remains in control of any commitment purchasing and their entire commitment strategy. And another point is that Archera's insured commitments do not negatively impact AWS or other cloud provider margins. Finally, kind of talking about another benefit of Archera's insured commitment model beyond sort of the EC2 land is that it is a commitment model that works on all reservable services. So it doesn't matter if you're using RDS, Redshift, Lambda, Fargate, anything that can be committed to on AWS, Archera can help you ensure those commitments and thus guarantee that you have the certainty around your future commitment and protection against any sort of underutilization. This can drive higher savings than just looking at EC2 and taking a black box approach. Finally, if you want to get even higher discounts above what you can get with your regular RIs and savings plans, Archera also helps with planning for an EDP. So you can use Archera to create forecasts and plan against a hypothetical EDP commitment. And once you get an EDP, Archera can help track your EDP commitment against your realized spend. And if there is a shortfall, can even help you fill that gap by using strategies such as marketplace purchases.
Awesome. So we're making really good time here. Just want to give anybody who has any questions some time to enter it into the Q&A pod. I actually need to find the Q&A pod myself. And let me just make sure I have that handy here. So yes, please take a minute if you have any questions. That's our presentation, but we'd love to, do a little bit of a Q&A here. We've got Nikhil to give us some deep insights. And so while we're waiting for that, I wanted to just give you a quick summary of how you can potentially learn more and get started with Archera. The best way is actually to book a demo with our team. You can do that using the QR code on the screen right now. If you're interested, we can actually walk you through a 5-minute AWS Marketplace installation. We install very easily from the Marketplace. And after 24 hours, can actually show you exactly what Archera would do differently in your account, including building out a custom commitment plan for you at no cost. So you can see sort of what the difference would be with Archera. And of course, we run alongside any other solution, so you can see the difference and compare us apples to oranges if necessary. Um, so just giving a second for any questions to be entered. The other thing I'll just mention is that we're going to have this is going to be the start of a webinar series, and this next one will be held sometime in the second half of February. We're going to be also focusing on the topic of insurance and how that applies to your commitment strategy. So it looks like we do have one question. This one says basically that they're already using a FinOps tool that gives them visibility and savings recommendations. Actually, Nikhil, if you can take this. So they're already using a FinOps tool that has visibility and savings recommendations. Is there a way they can use Archera alongside it? So I briefly touched on that, but could you cover that, Nikhil?
Yeah, so Archera is really kind of an a la carte approach where where we're a free platform to plug into, and the only thing we would ever charge for is an insurance premium if you decide to use GRIs for any part of your strategy. So often we see other folks who have existing tools mainly for visibility plug in with Archera as well, and then they use GRIs in a sort of a la carte fashion where they use these insured short-term commitments for workloads where they might have a little bit of uncertainty. And in a use case like that, we're able to really cleanly coexist with really any other tool you might be using to do your existing visibility, or even if they're doing some part of your commitment management, usually Archera can coexist with that and sort of just be a net new tool in your tool belt that gives you access to short-term commitments.
Awesome. Did you want to just briefly mention our sort of two-way door approach?
Yeah, so the entire kind of premise of Archera is that we're giving you access to these short-term commitments, and really these short-term commitments, like Jeff was saying, is built on the ability to have a two-way door. So we're a free platform to plug into, so at any point you can see if the savings numbers that Archera shows you are compelling to you. If they are, you can take action on them, and if not, you can unplug without any skin off your back. And once again, we're built on these short-term commitments. So we make it so even if you get, a 30-day commitment, you have certainty that you'll be able to get out of that commitment as soon as 30 days and be able to reevaluate commitment strategy if that's the path you want to take.
Awesome. So we actually have another question specifically about pricing. How do we price the product? So I think you just touched on it a little bit, but this says, how do you price your product? Do you have separate products? So I was wondering if you kind of touch on that and sort of where the free model kind of ends, where how we actually do make some money in there. Could you cover that, please?
Yeah, so Archera's main offering is really just a SaaS platform that gives you visibility and helps you plan and even optionally automate parts of your commitment strategy. And you can actually do that using AWS native commitments totally for free, and Archera will never charge you a dime. The only time Archera will ever charge you money, and the only way Archera ever makes money, is if you decide to use those short-term commitments, those guaranteed RIs and guaranteed savings plans as part of your commitment strategy. If you opt to use those options, part of the cost of those is an insurance premium that you pay to Archera in order to guarantee the rebate or buyback in the event of underutilization. And that's really what Archera's business model looks like.
Awesome. Um, just one, I think we just have one more question. Please, if you have any additional ones, please type them in. How does Archera offer RIs and savings plans for so many services? So maybe in this case, they're looking at a tool that only does it for like EC2 and RDS or something, or a subset of what we offer for.
Yeah, so we offer them mainly through use of and this is kind of comes back once again to our insurance model, right? A lot of other folks in the space might be only using the EC2 RI marketplace and sort of using those to transact RIs, whereas Archera is actually based on an insurance model where we actually have not only a buyback guarantee but a rebate guarantee. So if you get an RI or a savings plan in some non-EC2 service that might not necessarily be transferable, Archera actually has the ability to rebate you directly and basically pay you money in the event of underutilization. So you can really just think of that as a pure insurance sort of offering. And that's exactly what differentiates Archera. And that's how we're able to expand our offering beyond just EC2 to really any reservable service.
Awesome. So that's the end of the questions. So again, just a quick reminder, we'd love if you wanted to set a demo up with our team. Obviously, no pressure. There'll be a follow-up webinar to which you'll get a invitation. Also, we'll send over the recording when it's ready. We just want to thank everybody for attending today. Thank you, Nikhil, for making time to be on here with us today. And this is the start of a great webinar series. So we're looking forward to arming you with more information to help you manage your AWS and your other cloud services more effectively. Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you.